Welcome back, everyone. Kevin Shea, joined with Jim Wilson, the high school sports editor for the Telegram and Gazette and Home Team Magazine, and we're back. I'm back after a one-week hiatus.
I know.
Back to talk some football with you. Let's go over the four divisions, and right now the top four obviously make the playoffs. We have 1 week left in the regular season.
Crunch time.
So let's go. Who's in? Who's on the bubble? Who needs some help? You know, right now, where does it stand? Starting with Division 2. Division
2, Neshoba's in, the number 1 seed. I don't think anything's going to change that. They have Clinton this weekend, win or lose. They're 25 points ahead of, say, St. John's, and so I think that's going to hold serve no matter what happens. The interesting game is St. John's Leominster, which is Friday night at Doyle, and it's going to be a great game because that's basically you're playing for a home playoff game next week. So these teams, if you like St. John's Leominster, you're going to see it twice in a row. Again, regardless of the outcome, this is the way the playoffs work. Because 2 will play 3. So if Leominster wins, they jump St. John's
the
number 2.
Seed.
The number 2 seed, they'll host them again next week in the playoffs.
And if St. John's wins, they hold on to the 2nd seed and they host Leominster.
Probably on Saturday.
In the playoffs, yeah, on a Saturday afternoon. So interesting with that game. Let's go to this game and break it down, and then we'll continue on with the things. But St. John's Leominster. It's at Doyle Field, so obviously the home field advantage goes to Leominster. Leominster coming off a big win. They shut out Shrewsbury. So, you know, you get Leominster, obviously, everyone talks about the offense. Everyone talks about Dave Palazzi and what a great offensive mind he is, and he certainly is that. But let's credit their defense shutting out a very tough and game Shrewsbury team last week.
Exactly. Shrewsbury is one of those games that, you know, the odds were against it, but they wanted to play for pride. They knew playing tough against Leominster would be good, do a good long way in their program as far as where they are. But Leominster, just especially coming off that loss of Neshoba, when the whole did you or do you, should you go for it, should you not go for it, play for the win, play for the tie. They rebounded pretty well. They got back on track, especially heading into a game like St. John's. They need all hands on deck. And
St. John's coming off a big win over Marlboro, and that was a game that St. John's won in the second half of that game. That was really tight first half. Marlboro had an edge, but St. John's wins that game in the second half. And so they're coming off a win as well, but against a very physical team and a hard-fought one.
Marlboro's a good team. I mean, Marlboro's right now, they're in the 4th seed of the playoffs. They could meet again in a couple weeks, too, if things happen. So I think, you know, like you said, coming together and realizing what wasn't working in the first half, righting the ship, but really essentially shutting down Marlboro's second half, showed a lot about St. John's and where they are. Again, I feel like they're getting overlooked a lot, which is weird to say about a St. John's team because people are looking at Northbridge and Neshoba and Leominster and how, but they haven't lost to a Central Mass team yet this year. Right. Tim Cash is doing a great job at quarterback. They don't have like the Richard Rogers or Danny Leiter, one of those superstar, you know
Lance
NFL
Flower
guys. Yeah, exactly. So, but they're still getting the job done. They're winning games, and like I said, what more can they have to do to prove it? And I think having that game against Leominster, they come in and knock Leominster around. People look at them a lot more in a bit better light.
And what they have is they have a great line, too. Sean Reagan going to Boston College. Next to him, 300-pounder. So this is an offensive line that can really move people. They do have, as you mentioned, they have some running backs that are good. They may not be superstar names, but they're very good. Cassidy running the ball is outstanding, and I do like the way they can run him, whether it's design quarterback draw, quarterback sweep, or just let everyone go downfield. If you like it, take off. If you don't, you got options. You can throw the football as well because when he runs, he's a real punishing runner.
Exactly, and he makes teams. You can't play in the box on him because he can still hit the big pass if he needs to. And I think that's when St. John's have proven over the years that's when they're most dangerous. And they have one of those quarterbacks, a weapon kind of guy. You know, you can't really lean too much in one way to sort of stop St. John's. They're going to make you burn it. They have a great core running back. So if he wants to hand it off to any one of them, Oliver and Ngongchu, they can get the job done.
Right. All right. So looking as you touched on, Marlboro's in the 4th spot right now in Division 2. So big one coming up for Marlboro against Fitchburg. If they win, they're in. Yeah. But this is, you and I mentioned, it's a tough Fitchburg team. They've lost 2 in a row, but 3 weeks ago they looked really good in the first half when they put Sal Figueroa in there at quarterback in beating Shrewsbury. That was a tale of 2 halves. They won the first half. Shrewsbury won the second half. They won the game, a real close game. Shrewsbury missing a field goal at the very end to win it. But this is a Fitchburg team that we've seen be real good, and then at other times we've seen other teams kind of solve them or figure them out. So I think this is going to be a really good game.
Yeah, Fitchburg's tough to get a read on because you look at their losses. They lost to Brockton, but they're in that game. They had, Neshoba. They have a lot of games, but you don't look at that schedule and say, oh, geez, I wish they had that one back because that was a blowout game for them. They haven't gotten blown out. They are in every game. That's dangerous. I know Marlboro with that defense. I think Marlboro. It's not like they're taking them lightly. They know they're in for a battle with Fitchburg, and Fitchburg knows if they win that, they open the door for Algonquin and Wachusett, who are 5 and 6. They're knocking on the door. They need some help. And Wachusett, even though they're 6, they get the 2 points from the Algonquin win last week. They could jump into the mix too.
So it's interesting too that you have, and this one may be the tightest race of all the divisions, and the one that's most completely up for grabs. That you have a 6th seed right now, which is Wachusett, and the 5th seed, which is Algonquin, that certainly could jump in, and Wachusett theoretically could jump over, coming off a huge win over Algonquin last week. Peter Baird, their punter, calling his own number at the end, too, to run the clock out. 4th down, he's supposed to do a rugby-style punt. He sees a little alley on his sideline, takes off and makes it, and that's when the coaches are like, no, 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 yes, what are you doing? But I love it. But you're looking at Algonquin, they're saying, okay, guys, we still have something. Right. We have to win. If we win, we take care of what we can take care of. We could be in the playoffs. Wachusett says the same thing. Right. Boys, we know what's at stake. First of all, it's St. Peter Marion, so it's going to be a rivalry game. There's going to be a little bit of smack talk back and forth in that game, so they're not going to need any extra incentive. But that playoff carrot is there that we have the potential, if we take care of our business, things certainly could go, as you and I mentioned. Fitchburg could win. Algonquin could certainly lose their game. Wachusett could leapfrog and get into the playoffs.
Exactly. That's what drives me nuts about this playoff system, among other things. But the whole, because I on record, I hate math. And this is one of those things where, okay, they win, they get the 10 points for the win, or the 2 points modifier, but then you're worried about what happens on other fields 30 miles away. Right. Because even though Wachusett wins that game, they're worried about did Marlboro lose. Did Marlboro lose, then you look at opponents that they might not have played. You look at uncommon opponents.
Right.
Because they need to pick up points where Marlboro is not. Because even if Marlboro loses, they might still pick up 2 points from their 4 wins, and that might be enough to hold off Algonquin and Wachusett.
Yeah, it's scrambling. It's mind-numbing, if you will. Division 4. Take us through the 4 teams that are in right now, because this is another one that has teams on the bubble, 5 and 6. Certainly can believe, okay, if we win, we can easily jump into that mix.
I think this might be the tightest one. I mean, I know you said Division 2, but I think looking up top to bottom, Division 4, you got Doherty and Tantascwa, they're in no matter what. Right. I mean, they're 1 and 2. They're well ahead of the Grafton and Nipmunk. But the interesting thing about Grafton and Nipmunk, they play each other this Friday.
Right.
So Grafton's right now is 3 with 84 points. Nipmunk's 4 with 81. Obviously Nipmunk leapfrogs Grafton, but if Grafton wins, Nipmunk's pretty much frozen because they only pick up 4 points from that loss, because Grafton, or 5 points rather, because Grafton will be 5 and 3. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to hold off Holy Name at 79 points, and even St. Peter Marion at 75. So it'd be kind of interesting if Holy Name beats Gardner and St. Peter Marion beats Wachusett. That creates an interesting race. Right. I still think Holy Name, because they beat St. Peter Marion last week, they hold off St. Peter Marion. So if they win and Nipmunk loses, they might be able to jump in. And again, it goes back to the whole what's happening in other field things.
Right. So a lot of teams cheering in Division 4, cheering for Grafton on Friday night.
Because especially when you look at
Holy Name and St. Peter's both cheering for they'll have their green out, but it's the green for Grafton.
Because you're looking at Nipmunk, and they're picking up their wins. They're picking up against like BMRs and those teams which don't have much wins, so they're not going to get plenty points on the other fields. Holy Name, on the other hand, they might be able to pick up some points to overtake.
Mike Pucko, talk about the job he has done coaching this team this year, because it may be, record-wise, it won't stand as his best year, but it may be his best coaching job. Just with he does not, obviously every year he doesn't have a lot of numbers, but just looking at the schedule he's played, looking at the talent across the board versus other teams that he's played.
He talked about it last week in Division 5 column we run on the Telegram. I mean, it's because he doesn't know what team will show up every week. And for Mike, if you know him, he says that a lot about his teams, because he's trying to, he doesn't know what he has every given week. He's trying to figure out, okay, well now this opponent we should be able to roll, but you never know. But so he was kind of, you look at a big game like St. Peter Marion, and in effect it knocked St. Peter Marion out of the playoffs.
Yes.
Right now they're chasing it. St. Peter Marion had a chance in a big game to make a statement. Win pretty much locks them up. They probably jump in the 3 spot, and then you're on a different path. Holy Name with Mensa came in with a big game, responded well, probably against a team where if you go position by position, even as banged up as St. Peter Marion is, they might not match up. They might have the edge.
Talent-wise, I would give the edge to St. Peter, certainly.
The line and some of the skill positions, even with Danny Malman for a quarterback, I think they look at, if you're doing it on paper, St. Peter Marion gets his win.
Physically bigger, stronger line.
But Holy Name came in, they showed a lot. And again, a big game with Mike Pucko on the sideline. I was silly for not thinking that would be a big asset for them.
Yeah, no, he's a phenomenal coach and has shown that year in and year out. Looking at Division 5, it's Northbridge and everyone else. But the everyone else part, let's get to that, because this one, same thing. I mean, it's got a couple teams that are thinking maybe if everything falls just right.
I think with Division 5, I think it's pretty much set as it is, because I think you have Uxbridge number 2. They have a huge game against St. Bernard's this weekend. Undefeated St. Bernard's, that would be a big one. But still, they don't think they can catch Northbridge. I mean, they're 20 points behind going into the game. Leicester's at 94 points in 3rd place, and Tingsboro's at 89 in 4th. And the problem is 5th is Clinton at 76. I don't know if the Clinton will have the wins if things happen. I don't know if they can leapfrog Tingsboro.
And the thing with there is, and this is the part that would stink, like say Tingsboro wins and Clinton beats Neshoba, so they knock off, you know, the #1 team in Central Mass, a team that's 2 divisions above them, and they still may not make the playoffs.
Well, let's say it's a 20-point win if they do that, because they get 12 points for playing up, and then 8 points or 14, 16 points for all their, or 14 points for their 7 wins.
Right.
So that's a pretty good carrot for if the old days come back and that rivalry's back and forth.
Yeah.
That's a big win.
And you and I were talking about that. That used to be, I mean, and it still is a really good rivalry, but that used to be awesome. I mean, flat out awesome. And for years, you know, people that are new to Central Mass football, for years it was Neshoba chasing Clinton. Clinton was the big dog on the block. They were the team that was in the top 5 every year, and Neshoba was trying to upset Clinton. This year, in the last couple of years, it's been Clinton trying to upset Neshoba. But this is a game, and I remember going back, way back to when I started, like 20 years ago, the hitting in this game is something I always remember. I always remember how hard these teams hit and how big of a game it was for both schools and the towns. It's a really nice rivalry.
They always had big lines back there, good talented running backs. So it's one of those things like the throwback games. I want them to play at Fuller Field just for old times.
Right, with the dim lights. Basically a couple headlights shining down on the field.
Parents, turn your cars on.
Here we go. We got 4 plays. They're going to go between the tackle, try to stop us. Division 6. To break this one down for us, and I know the West Boylston coaching staff and Mike Ross, he's not a mathematician, but he's probably been burning up your phone saying, buddy, what do I got to do? Jimmy, am I in? Am I in, Jimmy?
They're tough. They're a tough team. We're in for a battle. He knows. The West Boylston's got Bartlett this weekend. You know, on paper, you look at that as you know, West Boylston, McCoubry, they should have the talent to get that win, and that will lock up the 3rd seed for them, because you got Littleton and St. Bernard's 1 and 2, and I don't know if West Boylston, because if St. Bernard's loses to Uxbridge, they'll pick up 7 points for that loss.
Yeah, because they're playing up.
They're playing. I'm saying, yeah, they get the 12 points for that, so the 7 points in the bonus, and then the 12 points for the win. So they could feasibly beat leapfrog St. Bernard's.
Right.
But I think they're definitely in. I don't want to say, I don't want to have it take it easy, because I know it's a tough game, and Bartlett would love nothing, but that's a season saver for Bartlett. They come in and they knock West Boylston around and get that win. It's a huge party.
Right, exactly. You're not going into the playoffs. You still, but as you and I mentioned, the thing with these teams that may even be mathematically eliminated, or teams that really are a long shot, you still have 4 games to play, 3 games to play after this week. So you're still playing. I mean, obviously you're playing with the pride, but you're still playing to get momentum and to finish this year out strong and on a winning streak and building and everything that you're playing for. Even though, you know, you've been told, okay, your season essentially is done, right? In the way that the playoff system is. Monty Tech, outside looking in, Valley Tech's got that 4th spot. If they win, they're in. They lock it up. Monty Tech though has an outside shot if things fall right.
They would look better if they got blown up by St. Bernard's last week. That's a tough one to come back from in terms of trying to reestablish themselves in the power rankings. They got Gansett this weekend. Again, on paper, that should be a good game for Monty Tech to get back on track for it. But I don't think, especially since Monty Tech or Narragansett doesn't have many points in the bank. Right. I don't know if that's going to be enough to overtake, you know, get into the playoffs. But like I said, this is what the coaches are trying to deal with now. The whole how do they motivate these guys, which by saying basically, hey, after tonight, we're playing in the consolation games. So it's tough to sort of get. Do you build for next year, or do you sort of, you know, how do you sort of rally these guys to play teams you don't know who you're facing until Monday morning? Right,
and that I think is the toughest job with this whole system. It's the toughest job on these coaches. It's unique because no other coaches have to do it in any other sport. You know, basketball, hockey, lacrosse, baseball, they don't end their season 2-3 weeks early and tell the coaches and the kids, you're still going to play games. They just don't mean anything. And football is so unique anyway, with working all week long for that one game, and it stays with you if you lose, and it hurts so much worse to lose than it feels good to win. All right, out of time, unfortunately. Jim, thanks again. Next week, we'll be talking playoffs. And talking matchups.
Can't wait for it. It's already here.
Unbelievable. He's Jim Wilson. I'm Kevin Shea. We're back with more of the Frenzy Extra right after this.